Grace here. Happy Valentine's Day and welcome back for a second Extra Valentine's tutorial that I made for you all. Now, this design and making the tutorial was really a last-minute brain fart of mine, and I hadn't planned on making this tutorial at all since I already made an Extra Valentine's tutorial for you all, right? The One Love, One People. But yeah, the super cute new Loomigurumi kits from Official Rainbowloom inspired me to make something else. So this is what I came up with. Now, it is something totally different for me, so bear with me during this tutorial. I'm way out of my comfort zone here. I have never done any Loomigurumi or watched any tutorials, so I had to figure it out all by myself. And yeah, I'm very much self-taught, but I think I did pretty okay if I see what's on the table here. So I made this tutorial extra beginner friendly for you all. Should you want to get into Loomigurumi, this is a very good place to start because I will really cover the basics here and show you all the stitches, and it is really easy to make these hearts, and Loomigurumi really isn't hard at all if you know what you're doing and just pay good attention, close attention I mean, on this tutorial. You really have a head start making your Loomigurumi kits from Official Rainbowloom. I will try to explain everything really well. I'll go slow and steady and you can follow along with me as always. And of course I'm always here to answer your questions. Okay? Enough lovey-dovey, let's grab some stuff and let's get looming. To make these cute little pencil toppers, what you will need is your hook, of course. Now, the great thing about Loomigurumi is that you can just use your regular hook, because there will never be a lot of bands or loops on your hook. And for this design and most designs, you will not be doing a lot of sliding and turning. So you can also just use your regular crochet hook. Doesn't have to have two ends on it. But I really like using my Loom hook, so I will be working with that. Of course, we'll need some bands. You will need about 141 bands to make the hearts themselves, if I counted correctly. And if you want some eyes or a smiley face, like I did here, and the little blushes, you will need some extra bands for that. I will show you how we are going to make this one today. So I will show you how you can do that with bands, but of course you can also use some safety eyes that I have laying here, and what I did here with this heart. You also have safety mouths, and maybe you have the 360 loom, which also has all kinds of adornments in it, or maybe you want to glue on some of those googly eyes. I just glued them on with some crafting glue, so you can do whatever you want to. Okay, and it's also very cute just to keep them plain like this. Okay, also stuffing is optional. I have some crafting stuffing, which I will be using to stuff my heart with, but you can also stuff it with some paper towel or extra bands you have laying around, or just keep it empty like this. That also works perfectly fine. See, it's gooey and chunky in and of itself. So, okay. Of course, you will also need some markers for this design. I will be using my stitch markers because I find that really easy. But if you don't have those, you can also use some paper clips. That really works well too. Or some bobby pins if you have them. Or just your C-clips or easy clips, of course. But we're going to be moving our clips around a lot, especially one that we're going to be working with every round that we're looming. So yeah, I find that working with a paper clip or some stitch markers is definitely easiest. Now I will post the count and descriptions of what we're doing below, so you might want something to write with as well, so you can keep track of where you are in the pattern, but I'll explain that later. Please remember, you can always pause the video to catch up, rewind to watch something again, and of course you can always speed me up if I'm going too slow for you. I will always put timestamps in my tutorials, so you can find certain parts really quickly by clicking the timestamps in the description box below. Okay, that's it. Let's create some love. Now, to start creating our little hearts, what we will need first is a big pile of our base colored bands and your first stitch marker. We're going to be carrying that one around with us the whole time that we're looming the heart. And we're going to make the heart by looming from the bottom up. And we're going to make the bottom half first, up until the arches over here. And then I'm going to show you how you can make the eyes and the blushy and the mouth should you want to, and stuff it. And then we're going to make the arches and close it up. Okay? Now, To get started, what we're going to need to make first is a magic ring, is what it's called, at least in crocheting and I think in Loomigurumi as well. What you're going to do is make a cap band first. So you're simply placing one of your base colored bands on your hook, give it a twist and put the other end on your hook, creating that figure 8 shape, which is your cap band. And I highly advise you to put some sort of clip on here because that works really easy. And I'm going to use my stitch marker for that. We're going to be clipping and unclipping a lot for Loomigurumi, guys. Now, here we have our cap band, and what we're going to be doing is place some stitches around that cap band. Okay, so you're going to grab one of your base colored bands, pull it through the whole cap band, and we're going to create our first stitch. And what you do is you place the other end on your hook, and you pull the front end through the back end, like that. And that is one Loomigurumi stitch. Can you see what it looks like? This is the back side of it. Sorry, this is the back side of it, where you have that little bow, which will ultimately be on the outside of your heart. And this is how we're going to be looking at it while we're working. Okay? Now your next stitch, what you're going to do is put your hook back through the cap band the same way you did before. And we're going to make 6 of these stitches and weave them together. So you're going to make another one of those stitches by pulling that band under both loops of the cap band, put it on your hook. And now you're going to pull the front end through the back end. And to weave the stitches together, you're also pulling it through that first loop that you made, like so. Now we have woven our 2 stitches together. See? That looks like this. Now we're going to do this 4 more times until we have a magic ring of 6. So you're going to pull that next band through as well, pull it under both loops of your cap band, put the other end back on your hook, pull the, where are you going? Pull the front end through the back end and through the other loop, weaving them together. Okay? See, we have our 2 teardrop shapes here. Now we're going to do that 3 more times. So you pull your next band through the cap band, put the other end on your hook and pull it through the first and the second loop. 2 more times. Pull it through the cap band, pull that back end, front end, it's a matter of perspective I guess, through both of the loops. See, you're creating these little teardrop shapes here. These are very important because these are the stitches that we're going to be picking up later, and from those stitches you are building the whole pattern. Okay, now we have 1 on our hook, 2, 3, 4, 5, so we need 1 more. Pull it through the cap band, put the other end back on your hook and pull the back end through both of the loops, like so. Now we have made a magic ring of 6 stitches, but what you always do to finish off one round is pick up the next stitch, the first stitch of the next round, which is this one here, this teardrop shape here. We're going to pick that up by putting our hook through under both of the loops of the teardrop shape, like this. Yep, let me open it up for you again. See? I'm going to show you that again. So we have our magic ring here with all those teardrop shapes. We made 6 of these stitches that we sewn together. To finish off our round, we're going to pick up the next teardrop shape here, the first teardrop shape. And we're going to do the same thing that we've been doing the whole time. You're going to pull a band through both loops, close it up, pull that end under both of the loops on your hook, like so, and that finishes off the round. And this stitch that you just made will always count as the first stitch for the next round. And what we do to mark that first stitch of the next round, so we never lose count, is we always place a marker on there. A stitch marker, a paper clip, a C-clip, whatever you want to, just to make sure that you can keep track on that first stitch that you made. Okay, let me show you in detail. You can see we have one loop on our hook, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That makes our magic circle, I mean. Okay, now we're going to continue with the rest of the pattern. Now what we're going to be doing now is do some increases to make sure that we widen. Every round that we do will widen the heart, of course, so we get that tapered shape, right? So what we're going to do, we have 6 stitches in this round, and we're going to increase on the first and on the third stitch. And increasing means that you are going to do 2 stitches in one of those loops of your magic circle and of the previous round, right? Now we already made our first stitch of this round, so that's 1, and we're going to increase on 1 and on 3. So what I'm going to do to increase this stitch is put my hook back through that same loop, grab one of my bands and make a stitch. So you pull it through and sew the pieces together like that. That's an increase. Now if you look carefully, what you can see is you have the loop here of the previous round, and there are 2 stitches in there, 1 and 2. Can you see that? On the other side it looks like this. Okay, here you have your arch, and here you have your 2 stitches. Okay, now we're going to continue. This was 1, this is loop number 2, and as I said, we're going to increase on 3. So this is a normal stitch, pull it through, and the next one, keep a good eye on where you placed your stitch. It's on this one here, so this is my next one. And this one we're going to increase, so here we're going to pull through 2 stitches. 1, make the stitch and sew it together, put it back in that same loop. Make sure you always grab both of the loops of that teardrop shape. Pull your band through, pull it through and sew them together. Okay, now we made 2 stitches again, see, in that same teardrop shape. Now we're going to continue, just finish off the round until we get to our stitch marker. So just regular stitches, pull it through, sew it together. Oh, my lighting was a bit off there. The next one, this stitch is in this one here, so this is my next one. Picking it up. Pull it through and sew them together. Next one. Pull it through and sew it together. What you're actually making is little slip knots, you see. Don't go yanking on your bands, just keep them loosely sewn together. Okay, now that was the last stitch of this round, because here we are at the stitch marker, you see. And to finish off each round, as I said, you're always going to make the first stitch in that stitch where the stitch marker is to finish off the round. So we're going to do that. Oh, that thing is in the way. That happens sometimes. Oh, I lost my loop there. Okay. Pull it through and sew them together. Now I'm going to unclip my clip and put it on the first stitch of the next round. So we can always keep track on that first stitch and the last stitch of that round we just did, okay? I'm going to open up my design a little bit. of the piece I just made so I can show you what we did. We started out with 6 stitches and we increased on 1 and 3, so that means that we have 8 stitches now, if we've done it correctly, right? Now, the first stitch is this one over here. You see, that's on this loop here. So we have 1, 2, 3. Let me show you that better. 1 is the one that we have here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we're back to the first one. Okay, so that's correct. Now we're going to do this with the increases all the way up until we have 20 stitches. So the next round, we now have 8 stitches on our hook. We're going to increase on 1 and 4 because 4 is half of 8, right? So 1, we're going to make another stitch in there. We already made that first stitch. So you're going to go back inside that same loop. Make your second stitch there. We're going to start counting here. 1. We're going to increase on 4. So 2 is a normal one. And 3 is a normal one. And now we get to 4, so you put your hook through. We're going to do 1 stitch here, pull it under, pull it through, and sew them together. Go back in, that's an increase. Another bend through the same stitch. That's 2. And now we're just going to finish off the rest of the round like we did just with the previous round, I mean, until we get to the stitch marker, just single stitches. I'm sorry about the lighting, guys. I'm filming an artificial light because this was a last minute plan, so it's a little bit dark here. Okay, make sure that you open up your design a little bit so you can identify your stitches. You see, this one already has one on it, so this is my next one. There. Another one. We're almost at the stitch marker. That thing is always in the way. Pull it through, pull it through. Okay, that was this stitch. And now we're at the stitch marker. So we're going to finish off the round by putting 1 stitch through that one where the stitch marker is on, just to finish off the round. And that's the first stitch of our next round. Unclip and reclip your new stitch. Then it's safe to take out your hook. And we're going to count again to see if we've done it correctly. Okay, let me try that again because I miscounted just now. So the previous round we ended with 8 stitches, right? So we increased twice, so we should have 10 stitches made in this round. So the first one I have on my hook here, and this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so that's correct. Now we're going to increase twice again so that we get up to 12. And we're going to increase on stitch 1 and stitch 5. I always want to increase the 2 stitches that are opposite of each other. Okay, so the first one, wait, let me lay out some bands here so we don't get confused. I'm going to make a little pile here of 5 bands. And on the 5th one, we're going to increase. So I will lay that separately, you see? So the first one we will also increase, but we already have that first stitch made. We always do that in the previous round. So we go back in and we're going to make 5 regular stitches. That is 1, which has a double stitch in it. And this is 2. And then we have a 3. and 4. And my last band here, which is number 5, and we want to increase that one. So grabbing my next band and go back in through that same hole that we just made a stitch in and make another stitch there. That's it. And then we finish off the round until we get to the stitch marker just with regular single stitches. 1, why am I counting? Let's do that. Next one. Oh, come here. I hope you guys are getting the hang of making these stitches. It's just, you just need practice. Practice makes perfect, right? I'm going a little bit fast, otherwise this tutorial would be 3 hours long. But just remember, you can always go back to the beginning where I'm going a little bit slower, okay? So we're back at the end of this round, back at the first stitch for the next round that we're going to be making in our band that has the stitch marker on it. So let's do that to finish off the round. Unclip and reclip. So now we should have 12 stitches, right? We increased twice while we had 10. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, because this is where my first stitch is. Okay, 12 stitches. So the next round we're going to increase on 1 and 6. So I'm going to lay a little pile of 6 bands here so I don't get confused. And the first one we also multiply, so we go back in that same hole and do an increase. So we have 2 stitches in that first hole, in that first stitch I mean. And then we're going to make 5 more stitches. Five more stitches. This is the last one. 5. And we grab our loose band here because I want to do an increase in that stitch. So we have 2 stitches in that loop. There we go. And we're going to finish off the rest of the round until we get back to our stitch marker. Let's do that. It gets easier the longer you're doing this, and also the circumference gets a little bit bigger, so it's easier to handle all your stitches and everything and to identify them when they're not so tight down here, right? Now there we go. And there we are at the stitch marker again. So we're going to finish off the round by putting 1 stitch through the one where the stitch marker is on. So we're ready to start the next round. Unclip and reclip. And then we're going to count again to see if we've done it correctly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 stitches we have. Okay, so that means that for the next round we're going to have to increase on stitch 1 and 7, and the next after that we're going to increase on 1 and 8, and then we have 18 loops, and then we're going to increase on 1 and 9, so we have 20 loops. Now I think that you got it from here. I will write that little part that I'm just explaining to you in the description box below, so you can always check there what you have to do, okay? So you make your magic ring and then you start looming, you increase on 1 and 1 and 3 to begin with. I'm sorry, I'm at a loss for words. 1 and 3, you increase 1 and 4, you increase 1 and 5, and you go all the way up there until you have 20 stitches around. Okay, let's do that, and I will meet you back when you're done. Don't forget to always put your stitch marker on that first stitch of the round, of the next round, so you know where you have to start counting, right? And you're always going back inside stitch number 1 to start your first increase, and on the opposite side it will be on stitch 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9, all the way up until you have 20 stitches in the round. Okay, let's do that. I'll meet you back when you're done. Okay, now when you finished your last round and you have your 20 stitches made, don't forget to put your last stitch through the one where your stitch marker is on, right? You always end the round by doing that, by pulling your last stitch through the band that your stitch marker is on. And clip it off and reclip it on that first stitch of the next section of the next round, okay? So now you should have 20 stitches going around. But what I would also like to show you is, I heard some people say that sometimes they drop a stitch and they get really spooked by that because they don't know what to do. So let me secure that last loop that I just made so the whole thing doesn't fall apart. Like so, and drop a few stitches so I can show you. Okay, I will also put a timestamp that says something about this explanation, so you can always find it back. Now I dropped a few stitches. Eek, it looks so scary, but it'll be okay because this last loop that we see over here is still attached to the rest of the sequence. You see that? So I'm going to stick my hook through there to safeguard it. Now let me undo a little bit more, like so. Okay, now what we see is that we still have one loop here that I can pick up easy, and you simply weave it through the loop still on your hook. And we do the same thing here. That loop was still attached as well, it still had the slip knot in it. Here we have a bigger issue because these bands look totally, they don't have the slip knot in them anymore. So what you do is pick up the loop that's closest to you, then the one that's farthest from you, and redo the stitch and pull it through the one on your hook. Same thing over here. I'm picking up the part closest to me, farthest away, make the stitch and tie it together. Okay, so that's what you do. Now back to where we ended and our 20 loops. Now I'm going to show you first how you can make the little eyes and blushes and all the stuffing is coming out, you see that, and a little smile. But if you don't want that, you can skip this part and just jump straight ahead to where it says making the arches or something like that, okay? So you can pick it up from there. Otherwise, stay hanging here and I will show you how to make these little accents. Okay, now let me show you what we're going to be doing first. I always start by flattening my heart a little bit. I have my stitch marker to mark one end of the heart, one side of the heart, and I want to identify the middle of the other side of the heart. Now we have 20 stitches, so the actual middle will be between stitch 10 and 11. So I need to find a little workaround for that and cheat a little bit. So what we're going to be doing is counting and putting a stitch marker on the 11th stitch for now. Okay, so here we have our first stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And here is the exact middle. So I'm going to put mine in 11. Just to mark it, so I know that that is the other end of my heart for now. Okay, and flatten it out a little bit so we know that we don't have one eye here and one eye over here, okay? Now I have some bands here. I'm going to use black for the eyes and black for the mouth and little pinkies for the blushes. I'm pretty sure there are a million ways of doing this, but hang on, this is my way. So I want that smile to sit a little bit at the bottom, and what we're going to be doing is just making a little slip knot at the bottom around two of the bands that you see here. Let me pick a bit up for you. like this. But of course, if we pull through the bands like this, they will be on the other side. So what I'm going to do is go through the middle, stick my hook through where I want the mouth to be, and I want to go inside that hole there. Then I'm going to flip the whole thing inside out a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. Then I'm going to grab one of my black bands and I'm going to pull that through those 2 loops and make a slip knot. Don't pull it really tight, but just make a little slip knot like so and leave it there. Make sure that it doesn't come undone. Okay, now we have a little part made already. We want it to smile, otherwise it looks so cranky. So what we're going to do is make one over here and one over here at a little bit of an angle. Okay, if you find another way to do it, please feel free to do that. I would love to see what you come up with. So I want to go there, pull through another band. Now these slip knots aren't really tight, so they will become undone, so keep an eye on those. Don't pull them too tight because then the bands will just disappear between the rest of the bands and you won't see them anymore. Okay, there we have half a crooked smile already. And now I want to go back in here and grab these 2 bands. Oh, I don't know how many bands I have there, but there. Make another slip knot. Oops, like so. Okay. Now we have our 3 little slip knots here. They can come undone, as you see. They're pretty loose. But I'm going to stick my hook through all 3 of them. Grab one of my base colored bands. Pull it through all 3. And make a slip knot. Like this. It's like a stitch, right? See, the stitches are nothing more than slip knots. But this one we're going to pull really tight. Like that. So that those other stitches that we made for the little mouth stay in place a little bit. Okay, like that. Okay, so now we can make some eyes, and of course you can use the safety eyes, very easy. You just pop one of your pins and you poke it through one of the holes in the design and put the clip on the back, right? Where do we want it to be? Here or something? Like that. What I'm going to do, however, is use some bands for it, because not everyone has their safety eyes, of course, and I want 2 bands for each eye, and I want my eyes to sit vertically, because if you do it like sideways, which you can also do, but I feel like my heart looks a little bit cranky like this. I don't know, what do you think? So I want mine to sit like that, so I'm just going to choose 2 holes for that at a slight angle, as you can see, right? I'm going to pick these and these over here. And again, we want to go in through the back. So let me put my hook through and flip the whole thing inside out a bit. And grab those 2 loops. Go out of the way, your stitch markers will be in the way the whole time. Then we're going to grab 2 of our bands and pull them through. You're going to make a slip knot again, but because I have 2 bands on my hook, sometimes it's easier just to pull the back 2 over the front 2. Now pull these a little bit, not too tight, just enough to secure them for now. Is that in the right place? I think it is, right? So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. I think this one over here. Yeah. Let me pick up those 2 bands and pull through 2 of my bands again. Make sure that the other slip knot on the other side doesn't come undone, which it absolutely will. It happened to me a million times while making these hearts. Okay, make a slip knot again. Pull it a little bit. And again, what I want to do is secure these bands a little bit. So let me stay inside the frame. So I'm going to stick my hook through those loops, like so. And on the other side, careful, they're already coming undone. Okay, I'm grabbing one of my base colored bands again and making a slip knot, just as I did with the bands of the mouth. Just so they can't come completely undone. Slip knot, and this you can pull tight. Okay, just let it go, hide it in the middle, no one knows, no one will see it. Just wiggle it a little bit. You can even get the little knot of the slip knot of the eye to come out if you want to, or hide it in the middle. And if you feel like it's a little bit too tight, put your hook in and just give it a little tug, like so. Okay. Oh, is it now angry looking? We don't want that either. Just fiddle around with it a little bit until it looks cute, okay? Like there. My knot a little bit. Okay, well, I think you got it, right? Now that we've done that, we can start making the little blushes if you want to, of course, or just leave it like this, whatever you want. I like mine to sit horizontally, so I'm going to stick my hook in through the back. Be careful for the band you already have there, of course. So, and I want mine to sit around here, I think. Just choose it yourself, doesn't really matter where you want to place them. Maybe you even want to make a nose. It's the same principle. You just grab two of the bands, like that. I am using single stitches for this. You can also do double to give it even more of a chubby, cheeky blush. Make a little snip knot. Don't pull them too tight. Like so. Oh, that almost disappears a bit against the red background, right? Let me pull it out a little bit more. I pulled it a little bit too tight, as you can see, right? So I'm going to pull it out a little bit more. Like so. The eyes are a little bit tight as well, I see. Of course, when you do the tutorial, everything that goes wrong, can go wrong, I mean, is going wrong today, but that's okay. And the other one I'm going to place, let me see, where do we want it? Here? Not really sure about if I'm liking the placement, but it is doing its job and showing you how you can do it. If you come up with another way, please use it. There we go. And we have our blushes made. Okay, there. Now, I like my blushes to be a little bit looser, so I'm not going to tie off these loops at the back, but just be careful while you work on the rest of the pattern, because as you can see, they can pop out. It depends on what kind of bands that you use too, because the outer loom refill kit bands are a little bit more slippery than the old opaque bands that I have. So these are more prone to become undone. But that's okay. That's all part of the creative process, right? And no one will know. We just won't tell them. Well, that isn't completely correct, but that's okay. That'll do for now, okay? Now let's continue making the arches. Now to make our little arches, what we're going to have to do is identify the middle of our pattern first. Okay, so what I'm looking for is this. We're going to grab our third stitch marker and we're going to place it like this, temporarily sewing the two halves together, the front and the back of the heart. Okay, so grab your third stitch marker and you're going to start counting where you placed your stitch marker on the last round. So not the one that's in the 11th stitch over here, but the one that's in the first stitch, remember? So we're going to start counting from here, and I want to place that stitch marker in the 6th stitch. So we're going to count 6 stitches. So this is the first stitch, and it's in this one here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I'm going to put the stitch marker through here. And the other stitch marker is in the 11th stitch. And I want to count to 16. So 11 is here, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 is this one over here. And we want to put the stitch marker through that one as well. Like that. And clip it so that you have identified the two halves where the arches are going to go. Okay? Okay, so the arches. Now this part of the design is a little bit more complicated than the first part, because here we just went round and we multiplied a bit to get this shape. But now, of course, we're going to have to decrease a little bit to get the round arches, and we're going to have to sew both halves together. Okay, but I promise it isn't hard at all. You can just follow along with me and I will go slow and steady, and I'm really zoomed in, so I hope you can really see what I'm doing this way. Now the first thing that we're going to be doing is putting our hook back through that last stitch that we made. So make sure that it is that loose stitch that we made and not the stitch marker that we put on the other side of the pattern to identify the half, right? In stitch 11. This is the one that we're looking for. And what we're going to be doing next is 4 regular stitches. So we have our first stitches here. That doesn't count. The next stitch is this one over here. Put your hook through and you're going to do 4 regular stitches. So 1 and the next one. And the next one. And that's 3. And 4 is right next to the stitch where the stitch marker is in, you see? And that's, oops, and that's 4. Now next we want to sew both halves of the hearts together, and we're going to do that by picking up the back side and the front side of the heart, and we're going to pick up both loops where the stitch marker is in here, and we go in from the back. So normally you make your stitch like this, but we're going in from the back. Okay, through the loop where your stitch marker is in, and you're doing the same thing on the front of the heart. You go through both of the loops where the stitch marker is in. Okay, and then you have 4 of those stitches, of those loops of those stitches I should say, on your hook, and the one we already had, of course, that we're going to have to sew together. Then you're going to make a normal stitch, so you pull it under 4 of the loops that you just picked up. Just make a regular stitch like you've been doing the whole time. Pull it through and sew them together. That's it. Now we're going to turn our heart around because we're going to be working on the other side of it. Okay, now identify where you have just placed your stitch, which is here. Okay, so I'm going to stick my hook through the next loop. Can you see it? This is where we just put the stitch through, sewing both halves together. You can see that the stitch marker is still in there. So you're going to pick up the next loop. And what you're going to do is make 3 normal stitches now. So that is 1. And 2. And 3 is over there. Oops, I shot that one to the moon as well. The moon must be littered with rubber bands. Let's try that again. And this is number 3. Okay, now that we've done that, open up a little bit so you can see what you're doing. We have one last loop here before we reach the stitch marker. What we're going to be doing now is a decrease. So we get that nice round shape on our heart. And to make a decrease, what you do is you're going to grab the front part that's closest to you of the next stitch and the back part of the stitch after that, the one where your stitch marker is in. See? So let me show you that again. You're going to pick up the front part of that next loop and the back part of the one after that. That just looks better, in my opinion. And then you're going to do a regular stitch. So you pull it through those 2 loops. You make a regular stitch. And that is what they call a decrease. So you've sewn 2 stitches together with 1 stitch, which is -1 then, right? So let me turn a little bit again. And of course, we just sewed our stitch where the stitch marker is in, so we're going to unclip that and put it on that stitch because that works better. Okay, now let me check my pattern again. Now we are going to do 3 normal stitches again. So here we have the one that we just made, right? So we're going to do 3 normal stitches. So this is the one, it's maybe hard to identify, but this is the one we just sewed together. See? So this is the next stitch. Make sure you grab the right one. So we're going to do 3 normal stitches, as I said. So that's 1. We're working on the other side of the heart again now, right? 2 and 3. There. And the next stitch that you see is the one where we crossed over to the other side. This one over here. It's on the back and on the front of the heart, right? And we're going to make a stitch in that one as well. So you're picking it up and just make a regular stitch in there. Like so. Then we're going to turn our heart around again. And it gets a little bit tight and crowded in here, so just open up. It is elastic rubber, so it will be pliable, right? Open it up a little bit. Now, as you can see, you have the loop over here. That's that crossover band. So the next loop is this one here. Okay? Now we're going to do 2 normal stitches here. 1. And the next one is here. 2 regular stitches, like so. It is so crowded. And next, we are going to do a decrease again. So you have 1 loop that's left here on this side and the one where your stitch marker is on. And the decrease meant that we picked up the front of the next stitch and the back loop of the stitch after that. And then we're going to sew those 2 together. You pull through your band and make a regular stitch. There, our heart is almost closed. Now I'm going to take off my stitch marker again, put it on the stitch that's on my hook. Okay, open it up a little bit. And as you can see, this is where we just ended. So we're going to make 1 regular stitch now. This one already has this one on it. It's sewn together. It's hard to see. Just take your time and look at what you've been doing, okay? This one is not the first one. This one is. We're going to make 1 regular stitch here. Like that. And now we are left with only a little small hole that we still have to sew shut. So we have our crossed over band here, and we have 2 bands that are laying across from each other here. You see that? This one we have our stitch in right now. That's this one. Okay, so we have these 2 across from each other. So we're going to do another crossover band, let's call it. So you put your hook through that remaining stitch over here from the back to the front, and you do the same thing on the opposite side. And instead of a regular stitch, what you're going to do here is make a slip knot. So you're going to pull it under those 4 loops that you just picked up and under the last stitch that's on your hook. Close it up and pull that end through the back end, and then make sure you pull it tight and make a slip knot like that. And now you've sewn your heart shut. Now you can take off your stitch marker like that. Wiggle it a bit to make the bands divide so it looks nice and round. That's your first arch made. Now we're left with this little thingy over here. So what you can do to hide it is you stick your hook through the middle of the design, go up through the middle of the heart, I mean. And you're going to pick up that loop like that. You put your hook in here and you come out at the top, grab that band and just pull it through the middle and let go. And you've hidden it like that. You see? And what you can do now is, if you want to, you can now stuff your heart. You just pull the stuff, put the stuffing in there. Let me show you. Because you still have one hole here. Okay, because we still have to make our second arch. So if you want to, you can put your stuffing in there like that. You can also use a paper towel, or maybe you have some old pieces of cloth or old bands that are broken. Whatever you want to. Don't overstuff it. You still need to leave a little bit of room to work with because you want to sew the rest shut as well. So, okay, do it like that. You go up here a little bit. That's that. Okay. Oops, my little thingy came undone. I will fix that later. Okay, so now we're ready to sew the rest of the heart shut and make our second arch. Okay, now to finish our heart, we're going to have to make the second arch, of course, and that will close up the whole heart. So if you want to put stuffing in there or you have to fix stuff over here, what I just had to do, this is your chance to do that, right? Now what we're going to be doing is grabbing that 11th stitch where we put that stitch marker on earlier. And you're always working against the shape of the teardrop, so to speak, right? So we're going to pick up this 11th stitch. You're going to pick up the whole stitch. So not just the part where your stitch marker is on, but the whole stitch, like that, both loops. Take off my stitch marker for now. And what you're going to do to continue making your heart, we don't have any loops now, right? So we're going to make a single stitch first, just a loose stitch. So you grab your band, you pull it under those loops that you just picked up, and you make a single stitch like that. Same way we started earlier with our magic ring, right? So now we have that stitch on our hook, and we're going to put our C-clip on there, because we always do that at the start of the round. Okay, and we're going to do the exact same thing as on the other side. So we're going to be starting with 4 regular stitches. Make sure that your stuffing is out of the way if you used it. Now this is the one where my stitch is on right now, so I'm picking up the next one, and we're going to do 4 regular stitches. This is by far the clumsiest tutorial I have ever filmed, guys. Maybe my angels was even worse, so I'm very sorry for that. And I'm also rushed because tomorrow is Valentine's Day, and I want to finish this tutorial for you because I showed a sneak peek to people and they wanted me to make it. So I am very sorry, but I hope that I'm explaining everything correctly for you, or right for you, and slowly enough. Otherwise, please let me know. Okay, so 4 regular stitches again. That was 3. My last one. This is also a very long tutorial. That's 4. And now we're back at our stitch marker again, where we have sewn both of the halves together, and we're going to go back in again. So you have picked up both of these loops for the previous arch as well. Doesn't matter, we're going to do that again. So you're picking up those same 2 bands, and you're simply going to sew these 2 halves together as well. Make a regular stitch like that. Now if you want to, you can take off your stitch marker, but I like to just keep it in there. We're going to turn our heart around, work on the other side. And what we're going to be doing is 3 normal stitches. Now this is the stitch that I just picked up over here, this one. So this is my next. Okay, this one I just picked up here. This is my next. So 3 normal stitches. 1, and that's 2. And that's 3. Okay, Now we have one stitch left over here, and this looks a little bit funny. This looks different than what we did on the other side because we made a single stitch here. So you have this extra little bit here that's in the way, okay? But never mind that. We're going to do a decrease now, like we done on the other side as well. So you're going to pick up the front of that next loop and the back side of that stitch that we made earlier, that loose stitch, so to say. So that part. And then you're simply going to sew these two bits together. So pull your band through and make a single stitch. Unclip and put your stitch marker on the other one again. Turn your design around. And now we can make, I have to think for a little bit, 3 regular stitches. So you go in, make sure that you grab the right one, right? This one we just sewn together, this one here. So this is my next one. Okay, 3 regular stitches. One. And the next one, 2. And 3, which is right next to that vertical stitch here, the crossover stitch. And there. And we're also going to put a stitch in that vertical one, that crossover stitch, what we use to sew both halves together. So pick that one up, put a stitch through there. And then we can turn our heart around again, start working on the other side. And you're going to make 2 normal stitches there. This is the one we just, where that crossover stitch is resting on, you see? That's resting on this one over here. So this is my next stitch that I'm going to pick up. Make a regular stitch. And another regular stitch. There. And now we're back at the side of the heart, so we can do our decrease again. So you're going to pick up the front of the next loop and the back of the loop where your stitch marker is on. And make a regular stitch. So we sew those 2 stitches together, decreasing it by 1. There, turn our heart around again. Unclip and reclip. Feel like we've done that a million times. There we go. Now you have 1 normal stitch to do. This one already has our stitch in it. So this is the next one that I'm picking up. See, this one already has one in it. This is the next one. A regular stitch. Like so. And all that's left now is to close up this half of the heart. So we are going to, this is our crossed over stitch again. So we have these 2 stitches on either side facing each other, so to speak. So we're going in through the back. Grab 4 of those loops. And we're going to do another regular stitch, but a slip knot. So you pull your band through everything. So I'm sorry, I was totally out of frame. Under those 4 loops you just picked up, but also through the loop that's on your hook, that stitch that's on your hook, like so. Close it up and pull that back end through the front end, tighten it up and let go. And now you can take all your stitch markers off because you don't need them anymore. Like so. And we still have this loopy loop over here. So you put your hook in through the bottom of the design, go up past all the stuffing and everything. Go out through the top. Grab that loop, give it a little bit of tension and pull it through the middle of the design. Let go, don't pull all the stuffing out with you. Like that. And now this is a little bit empty, of course, but you can just wiggle it around a bit and make sure that the stuffing goes in there. That's the benefit of working with rubber bands, right? Especially these new bands, they are really nice and soft. There we have our heart. I feel that it's looking a little bit cranky. Maybe that's because this tutorial was so clumsy. But anyway, I hope that you like making this cute little heart pencil topper. Wait, let me do the finishing touch and put a pencil in there, of course. And I'm so sorry for me being so clumsy, but it's my very first Loomigurumi design and tutorial ever. So thank you very much for hanging in there with me and showing me some love. Okay, have a great Valentine Day, guys. Well, that was it for today, my lovely Loomers. I hope you all really loved making these little hearts and were feeling the love. And I hope you will all spread as much love and kindness as you can for the world. We can definitely use more of that, eh? Now, please remember that when you have made these cuties and you post them on the socials, don't forget to tag me in the pictures and use the hashtags you see on your screen right now so I can see them too. And of course, I'll post these tags in the description box below as usual. Don't forget to like this video, give me some love, and subscribe to my channel with the button you see right here. And come find me on Instagram and Facebook too for more of my content and creations. The link to those are in the description box below as well. And I do give sneak peeks on Instagram and Facebook of upcoming tutorials. Now, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to message me here on Facebook or on Instagram. Shoot me a private message if you want to. You're always welcome with me. And should you have made a design you want me to make a tutorial for, please feel free to contact me for that as well. Send me some pictures if you can, shoot me a private message, and we'll see if I can make a tutorial for you as well. Stay tuned, turn on your notifications so you don't miss more of my content and tutorials. Stay colorful, stay creative, be kind and loving, please, and most of all, stay loony. That's all, folks.